Hey, what's up, guys? Blaine Duncan here from Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers, joined week after week by my brother, Austin. What's up, dude? Dude, it's been 3 weeks since you and I have been together on one of these episodes. Kind of crazy.
I know. I was thinking about it, and fans of Blaine on the show have been real heartbroken, and they can finally rest.
Right, I'm back. I am back. But hey, thanks for doing it last week solo. You did a great job. That episode has been fantastic. I've been getting a lot of good response, good reviews of it. So good work for keeping the thing moving. We didn't want to. There was a lot going on. Well, first off, let's rewind here a second, because Austin has had some really big things happen to him in the last few weeks. I know you mentioned, but for those of you who missed it, number one, Austin got himself engaged. So congratulations to you. There you go. Yeah. So I mean, you're gonna be. Are you gonna have a Halloween wedding? I think that's the only question I really have is, are you gonna have a Halloween or my Michael Myers mask?
Of course, you can wear the Michael Myers mask. You will be right there next to me as my best man at the wedding.
I didn't even know that. You didn't even ask me. This is the first time you're asking me that.
I'm not asking. It's a tell situation. Yeah. So I'll
get back to you.
Okay, great. I'll push whatever I can do to get a orange and black wedding. I'll get you the official ask coming.
All right.
Soon.
Well, this is breaking news here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be Austin's best man at his wedding, so thank you for that. And then we also want to mention that Austin also graduated with his GD master's degree just this last weekend. So you're making me feel like a real idiot. I just have a 2-year degree. I started working on a 4-year degree and was like, nah, too much school for me. So congratulations on being the one in the family who carries the torch and really is the responsible one. So thank you for making me look bad. And congratulations on your 6 years of education.
Thank you. It's a stupid amount of education. I will never, ever be Dr. Duncan. I wouldn't recommend it. But it was really cool. My undergrad was during COVID. So it was nice to actually walk across the stage and do that. But I've got engagement 2 weeks ago, the Masters last weekend, and upcoming my birthday. I want zero spotlight. I want no love. I hope everyone forgets it and I get
share it a little
messages.
Share it a little bit.
Over it, man. Too many nice people reaching out to me. So, if you see it's my birthday, just go tell someone else.
That's right.
You like them.
His birthday is coming up. What day is it? It's next week, but what day of the week? I should look. I should know this. I mean, I know what day it is, but I don't know what day of the week it is.
I think it's Tuesday, June 4th.
All right.
So
awesome.
Gonna be locked inside watching horror movies.
I love it. That's the way to do it. Enjoy it. As you guys can see, I changed my background up just a little bit. I kind of I went away from the truly strictly Halloween themed background and wanted to make it a little bit more of my own personality in my brain. I still obviously have some Michael Myers stuff up in there, but I've collected a lot of stuff over the years, a lot of stuff that I've been really interested in. And as you guys can see, my background has changed a little bit, as has Austin's. Austin's on like his 7th background by now. This one I think is going to probably stick for a little while. But yeah, this is the new me. It's the old me, but it's the new me at the same time. And it's damn good to be back for, I don't even know what episode we're on. We got
69, brother.
Ooh, 69, your favorite
69.
Number. 69. All right. Oh, go ahead.
But I was just going to mention, I really do like your new background. I see a little Bigfoot going on. I love that the Michael Myers that you have is 78 and ends where we started, where we finished. Plenty of Amityville love in there, little goosebumps. And meanwhile, I look like I am coming to you live from like kind of a trendy asylum. I need to get some serious work done back here. It's still a work in progress.
You got to get like your Halloween poster up on your wall or something behind you, at least,
I have that Halloween poster, but I don't know where it is right now. So I got to unpack that and figure it out. And then it's going somewhere in this vicinity.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, we are Halloween Lives, a podcast of Michael Myers. It is episode 69, and we are going to talk about tonight, this episode, today, this morning, whatever it is that you're watching it. We're going to be talking about the 4 different endings of Halloween Resurrection. And Austin, when I said to you, hey, let's do this, what was your response to me when I said, hey, we're going to talk about the 4 different endings of Halloween Resurrection? What did you say?
I said I had no idea, and it's kind of perfect that we're following up what could have been Halloween 8 with the last video, and then moving into all other alternate endings, because this is something I did not know. And I have my personal connection to Halloween 8 is kind of similar to yours, where it was really the first one that I remember like being in theaters growing up.
Right.
And so it's always like, damn, the one that I really remember outside of H2O is kind of shitty. But I'm excited to hear if there's, potentially other endings to this kind of least fan favorite film in the franchise that might make it a little bit better.
Yeah, it's definitely, we beat up on Resurrection a lot on this program. Austin has been very bipolar on it at times, right? He loves it,
Yeah.
He hates it, but I think we both are to some extent. I love it and I hate it equally because of that sort of nostalgic feeling that I get when I watch it is the reason why I love it. But then you watch it and you're like, God, this is a terrible, terrible film. And there's been some other crappy films, but this one is just especially bad. So we're going to talk about these 4 different endings. Let's just talk about the ending that most of us know, the ending, the theatrical cut that we saw. I think this is really, I'll be honest with you, it's the scariest ending of any Halloween film for me. And obviously we see, we see Michael get tangled up in the wires, the garage or the shed or whatever it is starts on fire, and you see him burning or whatever. Like you get the impression that he's going to burn down, and the firefighters are all there. And I laugh because I've said this before, like firefighters are always running in movies, and I don't think I've ever seen a firefighter run in real life my entire career. But for some reason, firefighters are always running in movies. And you get all this commotion, and then they wheel out this body bag, and you're getting the news crew there, and the news crew is talking to, I think they're talking to Freddie first, and I think they switch over to talk to Sarah afterwards. Is that how it works?
I believe it's that way, yeah. Because Freddie says something about like, we went in there and there was, we confronted evil in the face or whatever, and like let him burn or whatever they end up saying. Right. And then Sarah's also there.
Right. Yeah. And she's, going back and forth with Deckard on her little Palm Pilot or whatever the hell that thing is, that 2002 texting technology that there was. And, they're going back and forth, and here comes, they're rolling out Michael Myers' body, and they've got him on the stretcher on the gurney, and he's zipped up in the body bag. And, she tells the firefighter, let me see him, open it up, whatever, unzip it, whatever she says. And the firefighter's like, I got to warn you, ma'am, it's not pretty. Or he says something along those lines.
Yeah.
And they start to zip it, they start to unzip it, and you just start to see Michael's mask, just start to see it. And then the camera cuts away. And I don't remember why it cuts away, but the camera cuts away. And that's really all we get. And so the impression there is that Michael burned up, and he's dead. He's in this body bag, and that's just the way that it is. Well, then we kind of cut to another scene, and you're like, oh, okay, there's more. And automatically, as going back to that first time viewing that film, I knew right then and there, it's like, all right, something's going to happen here, right? This is not the end of Michael Myers as we know it. And you see him, he's getting wheeled into the coroner's office, and the dude who's wheeling him in is like, hey, I got another one for you. And she's like, really? She's doing a autopsy on somebody else. And he's like, yeah, and this one's a celebrity. Or he said, something along those lines of, this is a celebrity. And, I think he mentioned something about getting an autograph or whatever. And he tells her, it's Michael Myers. It's Michael Myers. And you see this look of like concern on her face of, she knows who Michael Myers is. And she goes over, and now she goes and she starts to unzip the body bag. And now we get the full look of Michael in his mask, and it's burned up. And dude, I personally, I love the way that mask looked. I still would love to get a copy of it like that because I think it's freaking cool.
It's one of my favorite like looks of Michael Myers, and you only get it for a little bit. Honestly, we should have included it on our mask ranking because it is interesting to think about like where that would rank up. I like it because a lot of the hair is burned off, which is like very realistic to what would happen if you put a latex mask in a bonfire right now. The hair is going up in flames, and then the latex would just sort of melt. I love that rather than, you know, I think like the ends or the kills mask, you know, the burns are a little less obvious, even though they are that dark black color, because the whole mask is weathered. So it's really cool to see the stark white next to the yellows and greens and blacks of the burned latex. It's an awesome looking mask.
It's a super cool looking mask. And yeah, I've seen there's a few mask makers out there that make like that replica mask. And I've always thought about it. I've always been like, damn, that's a cool mask. Because once again, I have a love-hate relationship with this movie as much as I have a love-hate relationship with the mask. Part of me loves the mask because it was the first Michael Myers mask that I ever owned. And then part of me is like, God, that thing was stupid. Like it just looked terrible. The eyebrows were you know, it just looked like you know, the GQ Michaels, I think what we've kind of referred to him as is he just looked too smooth, just too good. His hair was too perfect. His eyebrows were too perfect. His nose, he had that lip thing going on. You ruined the mask for me with that giant upper lip that he's got. But anyway, you see the corner, she starts to unzip the body bag, and you get this reveal now of Michael's mask, this burnt up mask, and you see his eyes are closed. And then it cuts in on his eyes as they like dart open. And there's like this, almost like a shriek or like a screaming noise or something like that. And I remember the first time I saw this movie in the theater with Mom for the first time. That was the first time that I saw it. Mom took me. I was too young to see it on my own. And Mom and I went and saw it. It was like a 9:00 show and super late. And I jumped out of my freaking seat when that happened. It scared the hell out of me because it was like, it was like you knew it was coming. You knew something was going to happen, but you didn't know what was going to happen. And, you know, I don't know that I don't know if I would have been more or less freaked out if he had like truly like sat up out of that bag and like grabbed her or something. But I think just like the eyes darting open and that sound of that shriek or that, I don't even know how to describe it, but you know, if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You got that noise and it scared the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie. Like it did. And still to this day, I think it's one of the creepiest endings that we've seen in any of these films. And yes, we knock on it. We take our digs at Halloween Resurrection, but that scene itself, pretty sweet. Like I like it.
Yeah. It's you know, I always say like anytime Michael Myers to this day can kind of give me a jolt. Right. You know, it's something that we like, for 20 plus almost 30 years, I've been Googling pictures of Michael Myers, and like the mask itself has lost its scariness to me, really. And so scenes like in Halloween Stalks 2, that quick shot of Michael looking at the mother and child and that jump scare there at the end of Halloween Resurrection. You know, I give kudos because it is really something that we're so naturally comfortable with now. And if it can make us jump, you know, gotta imagine for the standard moviegoer, for the, you know, 17-year-old kids bringing their prom dates to the movie theater. Yeah. Gotta imagine you got some jolts and some popcorn flying up.
Yeah, it was a great scene. I still love it. It's one of my favorite parts of that whole movie is the ending. And like I said, when you see that Michael's getting wheeled into the autopsy room in the coroner's office or the coroner's whatever, you know something is going to happen. You know Michael's not gone. There's going to be this last jump scare. And the way that they did that, it was creepy. So we are going to be talking about, there are 3 other endings that were actually filmed. Some are cooler than others. Some are just like, wow, that would have been really stupid, or that would have been kind of lame. But I'm going to go through these, and this comes from Screen Rant, screenrant.com. So I have heard of all of these, so I know that that it's factual that these were actually created. But I'm going to just go through them. So We just talked about the theatrical version. The theatrical version has Michael's dead body being brought to the morgue, then his eyes suddenly open right as credits roll. Another finale sees our final girls, Sarah and Freddie, inspecting Michael's body as it's wheeled out of the house. The two stare down at Michael Myers' charred remains before he lurches to life, only for Sarah to swiftly put a firefighter's axe in his brain. The unintentionally hilarious part of this whole scene is the dozen or so police and firefighters in the background who don't seem to notice or care that anything is happening. So some of these are online. You can see, I think that one you can see, and there's another one that we're going to talk about that you can see. Very similar, very, very similar. I still think I like the theatrical better. And it's sort of, I guess maybe a little bit less believable that if something like that were to happen. It doesn't. Here's my problem with it, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like that's very Michael Myers-esque to just like lurch out of a body bag when there's a million people standing around. Take away the Kills version of Michael Myers when he's like going rogue and he's taking on like 30 people at a time. Michael, I think, is very selective when he breaks out, I guess, or whatever it is, like in really any scene where Michael is escapes or whatever it might be, it's always done when there's very few people there to stop him. You go all the way back to 78. There's only Dr. Loomis and Marion Crane, or not Marion Crane, Marion, what is it? Chambers, thank you. Marion Crane is from Psycho. Marion Chambers are the only ones there to stop him, quote unquote, right? And it goes from there. I mean, even going all the way to like Halloween 4, it's just the paramedics. I think there was 3 of them or 2 of them. It doesn't matter. There's the paramedics in the ambulance. And it just goes down the line. There was really not a lot of people ever to stop Michael when he sort of escapes, but you do see in Kills, not that they are there to stop his escape. Well, I guess they are. The mob mentality, they all kind of gang up on him. But outside of that, it's not very Michael Myers-esque to escape in front of a bunch of people. It doesn't seem real. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and even in Halloween 1978, yeah, he's surrounded by a bunch of other escapees, inmates.
Yeah.
But he's blending into the crowd. Like, I hate when Michael doesn't appear to have a plan. I think maybe that's what separates him a little bit from Jason. Is there is that intellectual side of Michael Myers where, yeah, he's not going to, especially in the films where Michael's more of a man than a monster or a legend. Okay. He's usually not putting himself in situations where he's going to get the hell beat out of him. I mean, he's on a gurney. He's popping up. And I actually do remember this ending now that you mention it. I've seen this on YouTube years and years ago, or at least had heard about it because I have like a mental image of her with the axe. And yeah, it is kind of like, yeah, you're going to pop up and scare, but really what was Michael's plan? Right. From that point forward, he's, sitting up on an elevated surface, surrounded by people that know he's a bad dude and are clearly armed with axes.
Right.
It doesn't feel very Michael Myers to me. Completely agree. And I'm glad that wasn't the ending that they chose, because to your point, him in the autopsy room or the coroner's office. Yeah. He's got 2 different, medical professionals in there, rather than an army of firefighters, cops, and people who just got him killed. I mean, he's not in a good situation to wake up there. I mean, if they wanted to show his eyes open up there and they're wheeling him off, but we know he's alive, I think that would feel more Michael Myers to
Correct.
me. Yeah. But I agree with you. That doesn't feel like Michael.
And I think that's a good point. Like if they had done that, if they had just done this, just the same sort of scare tactic that they did with the theatrical version, where you just got his eyes darted open. That I think there's some mystery. There's mystery to what the theatrical version is telling us, right? Because did he open his eyes and he jumped out and started killing the morgue? The lady doing the autopsy, the coroner. Like what do you got there?
Oh, I was mimicking Michael, but he wouldn't have a knife, so I don't even know what I
Right.
was
No,
doing.
he would literally have his burned fleshy hands to do, but whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not Michael asked to do that. So, and to your point, like I love the way that you said it. Like Michael always has a plan, and that's very different than like what we see with Jason Voorhees and the Friday the 13th series, where he's just sort of. I mean, Michael is a killing machine, but he's a well thought out killing machine, and you said that very well. So, yeah, I'm glad they didn't go with that version. It wouldn't have been any good. So, let's see. So we are at number 3. The third ending sees Deckard personally coming to the house to help rescue Sarah, with the two actually meeting on screen, unlike the theatrical version. A wounded Freddy is later being taken out of the house, who apologizes to Sarah for the death of her friends. It's also left ambiguous as to whether Michael survived. So, a very sort of vanilla ending for that particular ending, where yes, you get the meetup of Sarah and Deckard, but outside of that, you really don't get a whole lot. And you know, first and foremost, yeah, I'm glad they never went with this ending. It would have really ended much more on a dull note. You would have obviously taken, the idea would have stuck that okay, Michael burned up in the garage or whatever this thing was, and he's gone, but we don't have sort of this closure of Michael's body being discovered. Now, that could have left the door open for other sequels potentially. Not that necessarily the ending that we got, that theatrical version, not that that took away anything, because clearly Michael was still alive, and clearly there was going to, we were going to get more Halloweens. It was going to live to see another day. But going back to the, they never recovered his body sort of conversation, they could have gone with that if we didn't get that final sort of closure of seeing Michael's body. Even though we knew or know that he was still alive, we at least knew that his body had been recovered. But it would have been a really easy out if they had gone to make a Halloween 9 and they would have said, well, they never discovered his body, or they could have gone back to the idea that there were these tunnels under the house, under the Myers house, and that he must have escaped through one of these tunnels, and a little bit maybe Halloween 2018-esque, right? Where he got out of the fire somehow and was able to survive. So that in itself, I think maybe is a little interesting, but I don't care for this ending at all.
Yeah, I mean, when you started talking about it, I did like the idea of Deckard and Sarah coming together, because those are kind of our two main protagonists, with Freddy kind of being mid to side character. Right. Esque in that film. But those were the two. I mean, Deckard was able to see things from kind of a bird's eye view and give Sarah tips on how to escape from Michael Myers, which is a cool idea. And we've talked about that before, like, the kind of 21st century, how do you beat Michael Myers? Right. But yeah, if you're not going to have some sort of cliffhanger, and just kind of leave it on like a good note, a happy tone. It just doesn't have that finality sense that I'd be looking for at the end of that film. Obviously love the idea of like Michael's still out there, because that's what this show is all about. But I just don't think that would have been the right way to do it. I would have wanted, like, if they would have done that ending, and then done like a slow pan out from the burning scene of the crime. And you see maybe Michael on top of a hill watching it all, catering to his wounds. I think maybe that would have gone further for me. And you could do like a direct sequel to Halloween Resurrection. But it really doesn't have that oomph that I'd be looking for out of an ending of a Halloween film. And ultimately, I'm glad they didn't go with this one either.
Yeah, and I think, when you think about like the final even 10 minutes of Halloween Resurrection, it's a pretty good chase scene for the most part. I mean, it's a really good sort of build up to those final scenes, those final moments. The one thing that I personally have never cared for with Resurrection, like I just thought it was really just cheesy and fake was when she runs out at him with the chainsaw, and she's like, "This is for Jenny, and this is for Paul," or I mean, whatever the names are, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's stupid, and then like, I thought that was sort of cheesy. I'm sort of indifferent to the idea of Michael getting tangled up in the wires, because part of me says this is a dude who, if we rewind to the beginning of this film, is hanging off of a cliff, or hanging off of with his three fingers. He's hanging off of this building and holding his entire body weight plus Laurie Strode's body weight. He's holding them both up with like three fingers attached to hanging onto a brick wall. But then he gets tangled up in some VCR cables. Like that's how it ends. So I don't know. I guess that seems, I would have rather, I don't mind like the fire idea. I think that's cool, right? They're going to end it with fire, which we've seen before, but I don't care. That's all right. But the whole idea of him getting tangled up is like, he could have probably thought of something a little bit better, but
I hadn't thought about that, but you are very right. Yeah. This dude who also in the beginning of the film walked through a metal door.
Yes. Yeah.
He broke through a metal door by walking. And even go back to 1981, he broke through that like glass door again by walking at a normal pace. Like this dude, I think it would have been a cool shot to have him breaking through the cables. But yeah, it is a little odd. Maybe he was just in a daze from that sweet roundhouse kick he got from Busta Rhymes.
Probably what it was.
He was going to be falling anyways.
And am I only watch this film once a year, and I don't even think I watched it last year, to be honest with you. My October sucked. Didn't she take like wires and jab it into his junk and like electrocute him? So maybe that, between the roundhouse kick and getting his balls electrocuted, maybe that was what stunned him enough that he's like, I don't have the energy. I don't have the energy to break out of these things,
I think it hurts knowing that, like, in retrospect, like if we would have gotten a Halloween 9 after that, it would have softened the blow of the ending of this film. But because this is the end of the true kind of OG films, the films that every Halloween fan grew up, kind of watching in sequence, it is really tough to see like the Halloween ends of the previous generation of films ends with, Michael getting zapped in the nuts, roundhouse kicked by a rapper, and I don't know, like the fire thing, something that was done already 6 movies ago. Right. It really isn't like a fitting conclusion to that series the way it stands.
Not when you go back to the absolute like beauty that was 1978. Mm-hmm. Like think about going from that to part 8, fast forwarding, it would have been 22 years later. I guess. So, or 24 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Math, 6 years, 2 years. We already talked about this. So yeah, it wouldn't have been like, you just look at that and go, you could have done something more to if this was going to be the end, which obviously it wasn't, because we saw Michael's eyes pop open, but it truly is, as you mentioned, it's the end of the OG, and to go out that way, I got some heartburn with that. That kind of sucks.
They didn't manage to kill Michael in a believable or fulfilling way, but they did kill the franchise with that film for 5 years. It really wasn't any sort of real death. Like by the time all is said and done, it's going to be probably well over 5 years between 2022 and the next time we see Michael in a theater, especially with the TV show going on right now. Like we might be experiencing, another big drought as far as movies go with the Halloween franchise.
Yeah, it very well could be. I hope not, but we very well could. The final ending is, I'll just read it. The final ending is simply a jump scare of Michael popping out of a sewer and grabbing a random CSI character investigating the burnt down house. in an ending that completely ignored Michael's main targets in the film. So what's cool about this, and if you go back, if you rewind to episode whatever it was that we interviewed Brad Laree, who played Michael in Halloween Resurrection, Brad is actually that CSI worker, or that CSI, cop investigator. And if I remember correctly, and this is also online, you can see this if you look it up. He like takes a flashlight and he like shines it into the hole that would have gone underground, that the Jim and whatever that other redheaded chick's name was. I think they crawled down that hole, or it's one of them. And he shines the flashlight down, and Michael like lurches up through the hole and grabs onto the CSI guy. And I think he pulls him down or something. But it's just a jump scare. So it's really it's like an extra 20 or 30 seconds on top of what we already got. So we do get that same scene where it's Freddie and Sarah, and they're talking back and forth, and they're being interviewed, and Michael's body gets wheeled off, and she wants to see his face, or she wants to see his face, and then he gets wheeled off. But then you cut to this scene where the CSI, worker he's going through kind of the debris, and he finds that hole, and he's like got his flashlight, and he's looking around, and that's when Michael jumps up and grabs him or does whatever. Not a terrible ending, I guess, because I like that ending better than I like the axe in the head ending, because once again, kind of going back to your point, like Michael has a plan there. What his plan would have been, I don't necessarily know, but it would have been a little bit more limited to just that CSI worker. And if I remember right, I think there was Brad Laree was playing one, and I think there was a female also that was like walking. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I think there was two of them. But at least that's a little bit more limited than just like Michael jumping up in front of Freddie and Sarah and these cops and firefighters, and there's news crews and camera people and whatever all standing there. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, what's your plan there? Here, it's a little bit more limited. Yeah, everybody might still be there, but they're a little bit further off in the distance. And this would be much more of like a select kill for Michael, rather than just like, I'm going to jump up and hopefully I can figure out a way to escape this, this mess of people. So what's your thoughts on this ending?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would say this is probably the best one that, I still think the theatrical cut that they ended up doing was probably the best choice for this film. Right. But this would probably be a strong number 2. And, if they really did it right, it would have, been in contention to be a great, front runner for the film. And I'd be interested to see that cut. But yeah, I think you got Cave Dweller Michael like 20 years earlier than we ended up actually getting him. It makes sense that he would then go underground and do the whole thing, kind of hide and again tend to his wounds until some unfortunate soul walks over that way. I like it because it continues. Like Michael, he doesn't just open his eyes. He's going to kill again. And you do get more than just a jump scare. You get a true scare because, this guy's done for. Right. And Michael lives on. I think like visually it would have been really, really cool. While I love the ending of the original of Halloween Resurrection, it's under fluorescent lighting. The atmosphere is that of a clean medical environment. So you don't get a lot of that spooky factor that you would in a dark, basement in an area that we're familiar with as fans. We would, or as the movie watchers, we would recognize that that kind of manhole area,
right?
That he's popping out of, and it would make sense. Like, oh, that's where these characters went earlier. Of course, that place isn't going to be victim to the fires that are raging above. And so I think it would have been a really cool way to end it. Depending on how they shot it visually, it could be a front runner for better than the original, but definitely beats out, him getting an axe to the face. Right. We already got Michael dying to kind of random characters as it was. And it certainly beats out just not knowing what happened to Michael as well.
Right. Yeah, the no closure thing I think is stupid. I mean, it leaves just a lot to the imagination, which I don't think is necessarily good in this case.
Mhm.
It's different than, even there really wasn't closure. I mean, there was closure, but there wasn't closure with 78. You knew he survived, but you just didn't know what happened, or at least that he had
Right.
gotten up, right? But to show him sort of burning and then just nothing, like no, hey, we can't find his body, or yeah, here's the body bag, here's the, here he is, he's going off to the morgue, like that is closure one way or
Mhm.
another. But I don't like the idea of not showing that at all, so that's it. I'm really glad that they didn't do it. We had somebody, and I don't remember who it was, and I apologize, but we had somebody on the show, and it might have been during one of the live shows. It just kind of all runs together at this point, 69 episodes in. It kind of just runs together. But we had somebody who was actually had mentioned they wanted Lori to make a comeback, and for Lori to have somehow survived that initial, when she gets stabbed by Michael and she falls, from his grasp at the beginning of the film, that they would have loved to have seen like Lori somehow, kick in the door at, when the garage is on fire, and whatever it is, like they had brought that up, and that would have been interesting. Obviously it would have never happened because Lori actually, I'm sorry, Jamie Lee Curtis actually said that she wanted to only come back to get killed off. She, there's it was even written into her contract. She could only have so much dialogue, be on set for like a day or whatever it was. I mean, it was just like, she wanted very, very little involvement in the making of this film. And she wanted to put to bed the character of Laurie Strode. But it would have been interesting if that had not been the case. And maybe their plan was, yes, we're going to kill off, quote unquote, we're going to kill Lori off. But then she, comes back to sort of save the day. Think about what that would have done for the franchise. And would we have gotten Rob Zombie's films, 7 years later, I guess it would be. I think the remake came out in 2009 was it 2007 or 2009? 2007.
You're correct. Remake of Halloween 1 was 2007, and then 2 years later the sequel came out.
Okay. So that could have really changed the course of the franchise if somehow Lori had survived the opening and she had sort of made this heroic return at the end of Resurrection, because it'd be like, well, okay, Lori she's still here, she's still back, and maybe there would have still been that like unfinished business. Even though I hate that like the way that they took her out was just ridiculous. We've talked about this, with like the rope, running up to the roof and like having all this stuff staged and, hanging Michael upside down. Like, it was terrible. It was horrible. And the writing there was just terrible.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that she did die, quote unquote, in that scene, because I think bringing her back would have just like left so many things unanswered, and we would have had to have like continued on with that somehow.
I think the right way to do it is to put those 5 minutes that you got of Jamie Lee Curtis, that she was like contractually giving for this film, to put that at the very end and have them die together in some way. Would have made a lot more sense to me than having her die in the first 5 minutes of the film, after we have like every fan of Michael Myers. We've talked about, she's not the most interesting character in a lot of the films, but at least like she is our protagonist. She is our final girl. And to make her the first death of the movie, it didn't feel, or not the first death of the movie, but within the first 5 minutes of the movie, it felt really underwhelming. Right. Very, it didn't feel right. And so I think if you would have had this whole Dangertainment storyline take place throughout the film, and everything carries on from kind of the beginning of the film, starting off in the college, and then at the end, and maybe you hear stories that Laurie Strode is now in a psych hospital of her own because of the turmoil of accidentally killing an innocent man. You could live with that and think about that in your back of your mind. And kind of like what I talked about in the last episode, where they were kind of debating, like, let's not even market that Jamie Lee Curtis is in this film at all.
Right.
Maybe even say the opposite, that, Jamie Lee Curtis feels her character was wrapped up perfectly in Halloween H2O, doesn't want anything to do with Halloween Resurrection, and then have that be a surprise in the last 5 minutes of the movie. She kicks in the garage door, tries to put Michael to bed once and for all. And, maybe the two end up, she's like holding him down in the fire and the two burn up together. I think that would have been a more fitting conclusion. But ultimately, you're killing off our two like real characters we've got left in really stupid ways in this film. And, I think that's why you end up getting so many alternate endings because nobody really knew how to wrap this weird story, this like oddball switch up at the end. And say what you want about ends. Halloween Lives, the podcast of ends.
Yeah, that's right.
I still think it was done a lot better there. And like I said earlier too, they didn't know they were making their final film either. But so
let me ask you this. I just thought of this as you were talking. So just like spitballing here.
Yeah.
If would you rather have the ending of Halloween Ends as you know it, or as we know it, right? Where Laurie survives, or if you were given the opportunity for Michael to have either stabbed Laurie, choked her out, whatever it might be, while he was laying on the table dying, and they both like she slumps over him and they both die together, or he reaches up and grabs her and yanks her into the the grinding machine, the grinder, whatever. Would you rather have what we know, what we got, or would you rather have those two gone out together?
Dude, I've never thought of him like reaching out and yanking her into the meat grinder
like
thing.
One final jump scare. Just like,
dude, that would have been electric. I would have been all about that.
In front of all those people.
Yeah, dude. Like, oh man, that's a pretty solid ending, dude. I think
this is why I need to write the next Halloween film.
I agree, dude. It was, that's a great idea. I think that would have been my ultimate ending. You and I talked the whole way before Ends came out, and this episode has now shifted into what would you prefer Ends to end like, but whatever. Right. We were like the most likely thing as like cheesy or on the nose as it might be. It probably feels the best to have Laurie and Michael die together in some sort of way. But then the marketing was like one person will live from kind of the jump there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was kind of thrown out the window. But yeah, I think, we never really got Laurie and Michael dying together. We've seen Laurie kill Michael. We've seen Michael kill Laurie. But we haven't.
It would have just
that.
Almost.
Okay.
It would have just been like poetic. Like it would have been just and it would have been like that final, like just horrifying, like one last, like she goes to kick him in and she kicks him in. And just as he's going back, he grabs onto her leg and just yanks her in with him. And they both, get turned into dog food. Probably would have been way too graphic. I don't know that they would have ever gotten by with it. I have no idea. I don't know if that idea ever crossed their minds, but that would have been truly Halloween Ends because there was nothing left to live. Michael is gone. Laurie's gone. There's nothing left for Halloween to live. There's nothing left, or that heartbeat of Halloween is gone on both sides, both Michael's and Laurie's. They're gone. So, whatever. Tangent went off on a tangent.
I'll bring it back.
Okay.
I think that is the poetic ending that they were trying to give Laurie Strode at the beginning of Halloween 8 by doing this whole kind of pretty music number as she's dangling there in the kiss while he stabs her in the back, which is supposed to be, he's stabbing her in the back. Right. I think like as far as poetic or poetry goes, I think Michael pulling her into the meat grinder is a lot more poetic and probably a lot more what they were really trying to aim to do in the first 5 minutes of Resurrection anyways.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's it would have been interesting to see, I will say, just kind of wrapping up this episode, I will say that I'm pretty much content on saying that I'm happy with the theatrical ending that we got. The CSI worker, that had been investigated, that would have been kind of cool to see that piece of it too. But I think the morgue thing is super cool. And like I said, going back to, let's see, I was 2000, no, I'd have been like 15, 16 when this movie came out. I think that film, going back to that moment in time, seeing that in the theater, it scared me. And still to this day, I think it's just probably the creepiest ending that we've gotten. And it's just like that final jump scare is really cool. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole film, quite honestly, like I said before. So at the end of the day, I'm happy with the theatrical ending. What do you think?
You know, and this is a tangent too, but I think I have a special feeling towards the original ending because you were 16 or whatever. I was 5, and right. I remember you going to the movie theater and like being sad I couldn't go see Halloween Resurrection. But I remember you came back and you basically laid it out scene by scene for me when you got home. What happened?
What a good big brother I was.
I'm saying,
talking to his 5-year-old brother about Michael Myers.
It was great. And I remember you telling me, you know, and it was like getting a ghost story in front of a campfire. You told me about the ending of like, you know, they go into the hospital, you know, probably call it a hospital or a morgue or whatever. And his eyes open. And I remember being like, oh my God, that's the coolest ending ever. And so when I finally saw it, it was like, oh, I feel like I've seen this movie. And it was because you had painted that image in my brain. And I think it was so, kind of a key moment for me with this franchise that ending will always resonate with me. And so, yeah, I got to go with that one being the best with, you know, I agree, manhole or cave or basement dungeon thing being the runner up. I think there was a lot there with the, you know, we never found his body thing. But ultimately what you read, like it didn't feel like a satisfying close to the film. And I get why that didn't happen. But yeah, I think as screwed up as the movie is, we did get the best possible ending for Halloween Resurrection.
That we did. What do you guys think? Let us know down below. Are you happy with the way Halloween Resurrection ended, or would you have liked to have seen one of these other 3 endings? Which, of course, you can check out. Go to YouTube and search for Halloween Resurrection alternate endings, and you can see them. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And, of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, we always appreciate that. If you like this video, give it a like. Give us a subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at halloween.lives.podcast. Let us know what you guys think. We'll be back next week, episode 70, dude. Every single time we move down this, you know, keep going down the road, I'm like, damn, how are we this far? But we've got episode 70 coming next week. It's great to be back. Great to be back with you, Austin. We're obviously, it's always, you know, wonderful when we can both be here. So glad we can be together again. And we've got a lot more content coming your way. But that's going to do it for episode number 69 of Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers. My name is Blaine Duncan. That is my brother, Austin. And we'll see you guys next week for episode 7.